There is one word in the English language that over the years that has helped me develop a major ick towards it. This particular word is deceitful, it's misleading, and has been heavily misused over the years to con and fool people in many traumatic ways. This word is referred to as expert. Now you might be thinking, as a healthcare professional, am I not the expert? Do I not want to be perceived as the expert by my patients so that they can take me seriously and I can build trust with them? Well, in this video, I'm about to dispel that very myth that trying to be the expert as a healthcare professional in any field is a terrible idea if you want to connect and relate well with your patients, and what you should do instead in order to achieve the trust that you desire with them. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Thank you very much for your ongoing presence and support and engagement. I'm seeing a lot of new subscribers that have jumped on board, so welcome. For those who are new over here, my name is Shweta. I am the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals who are from English as a second language backgrounds improve their communication skills in order for them to connect better with their patients, build more trust-based and collaborative relationships, develop empathy, influence and impact, and in the process get better testimonials, reviews, and open up career opportunities, not just to progress in the ladder as a healthcare professional, but also potentially work as an expatriate in other countries. So say, for example, you are a healthcare professional who is working with patients on a day-to-day basis. You are either from an English as a second language background, you are either working in a country where English is the first language, or you're working in an environment where your patients are speaking English as the first language, and you want to get better at how to communicate with them, how to build trust-based relationships with them so that you get better reviews, feedback, and testimonials, and in the process progress in your career in a much more rapid manner. You have absolutely come to the right place. So like I mentioned in the very beginning of the video, this word expert has something that has put me off completely altogether. And let me talk from my experience as someone who has been showing up on LinkedIn and on YouTube consistently for the past 2 years. When I first started, I also fell into this trap that I want to be seen as an expert. I want people to see me as someone who knows everything, who is able to, have all the answers and have, all these 20 plus accolades under my belt to really, for my audience and my clients to take me seriously. Over time, I realized that was completely untrue. What people really, most of the videos and the stories that I have posted over here and on LinkedIn are the ones where I really showed my human side and aspects of my life that were much more relatable, that people could really connect with me on an emotional level. And that's how I got over this entire myth and this pressure that I had put on myself that I want to be an expertise, this big expert in communication. And no, I don't want to be an expert ever. I just want to be, I'm someone who is sharing what I know, not just from my own experience of working in healthcare, but also as someone who was a very poor communicator at one point. And so I've pretty much merged those two things together, as well as, I've been a teacher most of my life. So it's just from that perspective is why I'm sharing what I do over here and also on LinkedIn. So, and that has actually worked much better for me. People are now, they tell me all the time that, what you're saying has a lot more validity, and people are actually trying to take me and my work much more seriously. This is when I have tried not to be an expert, and I've done the exact opposite of that. Interestingly, earlier this week, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who's the poster child of this entire brand, his live show in Melbourne, Australia, where I'm based, it was an incredible night. I'm just going to leave a picture of that, what happened, and over here. And in his latest book, as well as on this event that I had attended, he speaks about the same thing, that this word expert has been completely blown out of proportion, and the meaning of it has gone completely out of control. And he mentioned that in the sense that when people are trying to take health advice from different people on how they can improve their health, if you just go on social media now, you are just bombarded with these people who claim to be quote unquote experts, and they are all pushing this one agenda that if you want to get healthy, you have to do this one particular thing, and only that will work for you, whether it's taking trying a certain type of diet, doing a certain type of exercise, taking this type of medication, or whatever the case may be. And in the process, what happens is when people try that and they realize that it doesn't work for them, they start to blame themselves when that's really not the case, without realizing that that expert who is claiming that, they are sharing the same thing just from their work experience, their knowledge, their research, whatever the case may be, and without realizing that that's not a one-size-fits-all. It does not work for everybody. My coaching is exactly the same. It's not one-size-fits-all. It's not for everybody, and that's why my one-on-one sessions, I tailor them according to what my clients are actually looking for and what their pain points are. And that is exactly how also you should be treating your patients, as not a one-size-fits-all, with unique needs and unique challenges and unique personalities and needs and quirks and idiosyncrasies and everything else. Now, let's go into the video and talk about why this word expert is just not a good idea for something to be aimed towards. Now, so this word expert is very problematic for a variety of reasons. You've probably heard all this all your life. Be the expert, know your stuff, and don't let the patient doubt you. Now, if you are a healthcare professional who is presumably from a very hierarchical culture, very traditional culture, where, as a healthcare professional, you are the know-it-all, you are the god, you have the expertise, you have the knowledge, so people are not used to, patients will never question you. What you say goes. That's like the holy grail, so to speak. But here's what I've learned through coaching and through my own personal experiences and the years of watching powerful communicators in action. Expertise without empathy comes off as arrogance, because the word expert really shows or tells the fact that you know everything and no one can question you and there's nothing else for you to learn. Nothing else that you can develop further on, because that's how you want to be known as, like you know everything and there's nothing that can be changed. Whereas the reality is that the world is evolving every single second, and your body of work and your knowledge also has to evolve, as well as your practice along with that. So just because you hit a certain level of like an achievement or an accolade in your career, it doesn't mean that you stop learning, or it doesn't mean that you will not be questioned. I've seen brilliant healthcare professionals speak very good English, pretty much read everything off a textbook, and they're like walking textbooks. I've mentioned that in the past. But they leave their patients feeling lost, overwhelmed, or even judged many times. And as an ESL healthcare professional, you feel the pressure significantly more. What you tend to do is, in order to sound like an expert, you over-prepare. You stuff your sentences with all this really complicated medical jargon, and you try your hardest to sound impressive, to really impress your patient, because that's what you think is going to earn the respect of your patients. But the reality is, patients don't need to be impressed. They don't need your expertise, so to speak. They kind of do, but they don't want experts. They want to be relatable with and connect with humans. And this is what I did in the very beginning when I started to do this, and also on LinkedIn. That when I started to do videos over here, I remember when I first got on LinkedIn, I used to record these 7-minute and 10-minute long videos, which people were just not interested in watching. And in those videos, I used really long formal sentences, I used technical words, and I scripted everything. And people would just, they would just go and watch it, and they would go, okay. But I got no engagement out of that. They would not connect. And that's when I realized you don't have to be, you should not try to be impressive through your so-called expertise. You should try to be relatable. And once I let go of that idea of really trying to sound like an expert, and I will never be an expert, and I don't want to be. I'm okay with that, that's how I want to be. And that's when everything shifted for me, because I was able to show up for myself with warmth, clarity, and purpose. And that's when my audience and my clients really started to take me seriously. Now, why patients don't care about your expertise as much as you think? Now, let's get real. Most patients don't know the difference between what an expert is versus a good communicator. It's like they really can't point their finger on which is which. So they just want to feel heard, safe, informed, and respected. This is the difference that I talk about all the time, why I stopped working with a certain psychiatrist and now I work with a therapist, because the psychiatrist would just push a lot of really complicated medical, health-related, and really outdated notions on how I should be mentally healthy, and telling me stuff I already know. I do not need to go to a psychiatrist to know that I need to move my body every single day. I need to meditate every single day. Now, he never got to the root of what my issues were, whereas my therapist does a very good job of that. And she's very relatable, she respects me, and she treats me as an individual. So the bottom line is, you can have 20 odd accolades or degrees, but if you speak to your patients and instead of at them, you will not lose them in the process. And for ESL healthcare professionals, trying to prove your expertise often leads to things like over-explaining, rigid speech, and you get really anxious because you have at the back of your head that if I don't say this, I'm not going to come across as an expert, and my patients are going to lose my trust, and so on and so forth. Whereas in reality, this is doing more harm than good. So instead of trying to be the expert, I want you to do something completely different. What you should be doing as a healthcare professional is be the guide. A guide, a facilitator, and a mentor. Someone who asks, someone who listens, who not only offers direction and guidance, but also collaborates and partners with the patient. So they will say things like, here's what I recommend, but tell me what's important to you, or tell me what matters to you. They don't stand on a pedestal where people expect they want their patients to literally worship the ground that they work on. They walk alongside the patient. So that's how you build rapport, trust, and influence with your patients. And you can do that even when English is not your first language, even if you're not 100% fluent at it. You don't need to sound like someone who has that native accent or pronounces like a native English speaker. You don't need to know all the answers either. What you need to do is have really good presence, which I've talked about in many past videos, which is listen with intent, speak with presence, ask the right questions, and explain things in the way that speak your patient's language, essentially. So speak it in a way that they will understand. Some of the practical ways that I would recommend to stop chasing this title of trying to be an expert and start really building trust with your patients will be as follows. So you have to really shift your focus towards building a true connection with your patients. And these are some of the ways in which you can do that. Stop overloading your language. Drop the fancy medical terms when unnecessary. Use plain, respectful language that educates. Now on social media, there's plenty of education, there's plenty of content out there on health. And even though the content there is very simplified in many ways, it also makes people very confused. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who to go to. But they will always go to the person who is relatable and who can actually show results that they have personally achieved themselves or help their patients or their clients achieve. And they keep their language very, very simple. So again, if you want to check out Dr. Chatterjee's pages, you can absolutely see how he really simplifies health that has been really overcomplicated over the years. So definitely check him out. Number 2, ask open-ended questions. So instead of asking, how are you feeling about what we just discussed, is a much better way than asking, do you understand or does it make sense? So something like that would really help the patient to open up and give you exact real-time feedback on how they're actually feeling about the situation. And finally, validate your patient's emotions, not just their symptoms. And so saying things like, especially if you're say working, you might be an OBGYN, and I have talked about this in past videos of how OBGYNs and healthcare systems in general really don't take women's reproductive health or women's pain symptoms seriously. So in a situation like that, you can say something like, it makes sense that you are feeling this sort of pain right now. It could be because of just postpartum, it could be because of perimenopause or menopause if they're having some sort of discomfort. So in that situation, you have to validate their emotions, not their symptoms. So don't just talk about their pain, but talk about how they must be feeling and make that relatable as much as possible. And finally, be honest about uncertainty. And I have mentioned this in the past videos. I'll leave the link very end of, where the patient asks you a question and you don't know the answer to, and you feel like I have to make something up just so that I don't embarrass myself. What you can do instead is that be honest and say to them that, I'm not really sure if I have a clear answer to this, but let me double check and get back to you. And again, that is something that your patient will say, okay, that this person is actually learning, wanting to learn and grow and expand their knowledge, which is exactly what all of us want to do in order to grow as individuals and professionally. So just to wrap this up, you don't need to be the expert. You don't need to be the know-it-all and a walking textbook. You need to be the one that your patient trusts, the one who sees them and makes them feel safe in a time of vulnerability and uncertainty. And that is exactly what I help my ESL healthcare professional clients do. If you've been chasing authority through expertise, but you still don't feel respected, heard, or confident, this is how where my coaching can really come into play. And in order to see if this is for you, I'm just going to leave some links in the description box below to either book a call to see if this is a coaching service that you might really benefit from in order to build further authority and trust with your patients, as well as you can also now take a communication persona quiz, which really talks about what your default communication persona is, that how you have been communicating over the years. And this is not to change anything, it's how to leverage how you are at your core in order to be the communicator that your patients deserve. So check those two links down below in the description box. In order to stay more updated on the videos and content on this channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And as always, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence, and I shall see you next week.